Great. I think we should be good to get started. Thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon. We have a really exciting agenda, so glad we're able to get such a good turnout today. The focus of this webinar is really to get prescriptive about how organizations are leveraging AI now and show real stories of how customers have been able to leverage Watson, as well as some of the latest features in Cognos Analytics to get some quantifiable results. We've seen firsthand with many of our projects how IBM's data and AI platform has created huge value at our customers. So we just wanted to show more examples of that today, and we really hope that you enjoy the session. As a quick housekeeping item, we're going to be showing videos of customer interviews, and the sound quality will be best if you're using your built-in computer audio rather than dialing in. So if you're dialed in by phone right now, I just recommend that you switch to computer audio if you can. For the presenters today, we're really lucky we have Daniel Hernandez, who's the General Manager of Data and AI at IBM, and he's going to be kicking off the session by talking about some of the key trends that he's seeing in the marketplace with data and AI. We also have Philip Draskovic from IBM and Mike Roberts from Newcomp, who I'm sure many of the people on this webinar are familiar with. They both have deep experience in end-to-end analytics, so they'll be doing the live Q&A session at the end. For the agenda today, as I mentioned, Daniel will be starting off. We'll then be watching an interview with Cardinal Health, talking about how they've been leveraging Watson services through the pandemic, as well as just using Watson for some of their overall operations. The next interview is with Mueller's head of analytics, really focusing on how they've been able to take advantage of the latest AI features that are in Cognos 11.1. We'll then wrap up with a live Q&A. So as the presentation goes on, feel free to ask questions in the questions tab and we'll answer those at the end. Just before I pass it over to Daniel, I wanted to give a quick overview of Newcomp. I'll keep this quick because many of you know us well. We're an IBM Platinum business partner, so we work closely with IBM to help clients every step of the way through the analytics journey, from figuring out what products make the most sense to the implementation, training, ongoing support, mentoring, and really making sure that they're successful with whatever technology they implement. At the core, though, we're trusted analytics advisors. Analytics is all we do, and we have great people who've been here for over 20 years doing analytics, running analytics projects. So whenever you're thinking about what to do next, feel free to reach out, and we're always happy to have those conversations. So with all that said, I will pass it over to Daniel now.
Quinn, thank you. And really excited to be here. I got to tell you, I'm especially excited to be with you and the Newcomp team. I spend my days in IBM and outside of IBM dealing with data and AI people that have a belief that the best businesses are data-driven ones, and the best way to apply data and put it to work is through artificial intelligence. And it's good to have like-minded partners like you who aren't just focused on applying the tech, but applying the tech in order to deliver outcomes that impact our clients' operations. So thank you for your good work. Thank you for your total alignment with what we have going on in IBM, which we think is the best thing for our combined customers. I'm always asked, especially now, like given everything happening, and there's so many different factors on everything happening, what are some of the critical insights you might have, particularly around trends? And on the one hand, my commentary is maybe disappointing because in general, what I say is the trends that I'm seeing are trends that we have been seeing. They're just accelerating. I enumerate through R3. Let's talk about skills first. I don't think it's any secret right now that there's not really an abundance of budget in most institutions around the world, no matter the industry that they're in. And especially on this particular topic, when it's putting data to work, especially through artificial intelligence, whether it's customer care, planning and agile forecasting, for instance, you need requisite skill in order. So of course you could acquire the skill. Newcomp is a great place to go if you need it. But even if you do, having skill inside of your business and enterprise is usually a critical factor. It's something you need to endeavor to do. Without a doubt, what's happening right now is the do-it-yourself movement it had already caught hold, but it is accelerating. Just to put some numbers on it, we have some Coursera courses that we've made available for, in some cases, free, in other cases, a nominal charge, and we did it to basically help address the skill gap issue out there, particularly with respect to data science. Our registrations and our course completions are up like 300%, and it started with COVID. It's accelerating now, and I don't see any end in sight. So the days when you had to go to the university in order to be a practitioner that is highly effective inside of business are, and in some cases, been over. And I think people are realizing it, acknowledging and actually benefiting from cheap, super fast ways to build up skills. And we're going to do our part to allow that to continue to go. So one of the things we're doing outside of making our tools accessible to whoever might want it through trials and in some cases extended for use is to work within universities offering open source curriculum, particularly around data science, and trying to advance the practice and touch as many people as we possibly can around the world, including universities. And so the do-it-yourself movement, very real, showing up in our numbers. If you and your staff have any interest on skill development, literally you are a Google search away. I would recommend searching IBM Data Science, Coursera, checking out some of the courses, getting your teams on it. Is a quick, very cheap way for you to develop skills on an accelerated basis. The second thing is around automation. And the two places that we're going to be highlighting here are actually two places that we're seeing significant traction. When I'm talking about significant traction, it's showing up in our numbers. For instance, in the case of Watson, usage up on top of a very large base, 70% quarter to quarter, because it's being used in customer care, which if you're to think about your business, if you're operating contact centers, especially contact centers where your staff had to convene their work inside of a contact center and in the work from home environment, that job was especially difficult to do, increasingly very difficult to do remotely. Meanwhile, your inbound customer inquiry, whether it's for support, help, account services changes, isn't decreasing. In fact, they're increasing. So you have a problem, like you have to still satisfy all that customer inquiry in an operating environment where your contact centers were not built for most of the agents that are operating them to work from home. And so the question is, what do you do? Our belief is through smart application of automation, particularly through conversational AI, you can not just deal with that problem, you can actually improve the deflection rate, which has a direct bottom line impact in terms of cost savings. And you can increase client satisfaction, which is kind of if you hit both of those, it's somewhat of the holy grail when it comes to customer care, at least customer service. So the application of automation within the context of customer care is without a doubt the number one use case that I'm seeing, especially for artificial intelligence today. The second one, and it has a bottom and top line impact, is around agile forecasting and planning. If you operate supply chains, you know that your demand forecasts were out of date many weeks ago. And if you're calibrating those forecasts and budgets to help execute on those forecasts through Excel, you're in big trouble. And even if you had more sophisticated means, like whether it's predictive analytics or planning tools that are based on historical information, they're largely going to be inaccurate because the historical information themselves don't capture the signals that you need in order to have, for instance, a very accurate demand planning. And so a major area of focus, and I would say second only to the customer care use case with respect to the application of automation to business problems, is around this area that we call financial operations generically, but very specifically, it's around agile planning and trying to keep up with fast changing market conditions. The third area is around trust. If you were just to take the customer care example that I started with and think about the implications, particularly when you're doing account services, so change of services, which might mean, for instance, adding new services, and you're doing things like onboarding customers onto a new service. some of that stuff is borderline high stakes. You're making decisions around who's creditworthy, who's worthy for your services, and there are consequences of that. If the customers that are engaging with you don't trust you, they're not going to work with you. And they have myriad options that they will begin to contemplate, in some cases pursue, if that becomes a negative factor. And so what does it mean to trust you? In a case of automated systems that you're putting in place that are interacting with these customers, they want to know that what you know of them is going to be entrusted to nobody, certainly not without their permission. They're going to want to know if you're making high stakes decisions, for instance, determining whether or not they're eligible for a particular service or not, that there's no bias in such considerations and determination. And in so much as they want to know, they expect to know what the determining factors were for how it is that you came to whatever conclusion it is that you did. And so this concept of trust is not just trust in the data that is known about me, but trust in the entire systems that are interacting with me, which means, of course, trust in the data, trust in the models that are built on it, and trust in the people that are putting those models to work inside of these systems. And it's a full system consideration, which is why, back to my friends at Newcomp, why I value them so much. They're not just looking at the problem from here's a technology and here's how you could wield them in order to build artificial intelligence and deploy them inside of the systems. They're taking proper care for those kind of considerations that you need to make, non-obvious ones, in order to be successful for the targeted business outcome that you're focusing on. So those are the three critical trends I'm seeing right now. I do not see them changing. I might see maybe the emphasis on one or versus the other slightly changing depending on how long the current circumstances continue, but I view these somewhat as semi-permanent, accelerating, and it's really incumbent upon us to, as a leader in this space, IBM, to help our clients not just deal with, but take advantage of these trends in any plausible way that we can. So with that, to the Newcomp team, thank you for putting this together. For everybody attending, thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn over the mic now to, actually we're going to showcase a video that then is going to lead into some real customer use cases that I hope you learned something from and you reach back out to the IBM and Newcomp team to understand how we could replicate for you. Thank you very much.
So let's dig in. I'm here with Jasmeet Singh, the Director of Augmented Intelligence at Cardinal Health. Jasmeet, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So I wanted you to give us a little bit of a foundational setting and give us an overview of the problem you are trying to solve at Cardinal Health with AI and what kind of results that you achieved or were seeking to achieve in using AI technologies.
Absolutely. So at Cardinal Health, we have done AI in various variety and flavors of it, right? So we use machine learning, algorithms, predictive analytics, as well as conversational AI. What my team has been working on with IBM is more around conversational AI and how we can kind of like directly automate and apply artificial intelligence towards solving the front-end customer-facing problems. That has been the focus for us in my team, leveraging IBM Watson and some of the other IBM technologies.
So then let's take a step back from there and really talk about, okay, you're using a lot of the artificial intelligence to address the customer problems. What kind of things did you see to where that was the starting point and the area that you wanted to focus on first?
We looked at our call center records, our customer center records, and we found out that 20 to 21% of the IT call center records were more around, hey, can you help reset my password? Now, we were like, well, that's a simple thing, at least in IT guys' mind, right? You press Alt Control Delete and you go back and reset the password. but it's actually not easy for business. So what we did was we were like, okay, hey, chatbot cannot have a play in this, right? If your machine is logged and your account is logged and you can't really log in, then how would chatbot help you? People generally do pick up phone and they call in. So the idea was, how can we go about leveraging the human behavior? No change in human behavior, the same exact channel, and then they would press the same exact, like, you call 1-800 IT help desk, you press the number 2 for password reset, and then Chia, which is our name of our conversational agent, takes up. And then it starts asking the questions, same exact questions that the help desk agents ask, and goes behind the scenes, leverages Okta APIs, and goes ahead and reset the password. Now, that was our starting of our AI journey. What we were faced with, a more recent problem, was when the COVID hit. As soon as COVID hit, we were getting lots of calls in our customer facing call center about ETA of their products, ETA of their medical products, ETA of their pharmacists' medicines, right? So we were like, man, how can we solve that? So we took what we built for IT and re-engineered it and reused a lot of code. We reused about 80% of the code, and we were able to get a conversational agent ready within 5 days span. And as soon as people will call in, our customers will call in, no change in human behavior. They will still press number 4 for the status of their order or ETA of their order. They will still speak up their PO number. But behind the scenes, our IBM Watson agents will make an API call to our transport management system, make an API call to FedEx systems, find out for our respective PO what is the status, and give back that answer within 30 seconds. So it was inspiring because, like, we built the solution with urgency. We were able to deliver value in 5 days or less, and business loves it. Like, they don't have to add or deploy more workforce towards that, and customers were getting first-hand value in a real short span of time.
Jasmeet, those were some really powerful statements. What was the approach that you took and your criteria for success when implementing the assistant solution for Chia?
So I think back of my mind, we always thought that, hey, we have to make sure, if you are able to make a quick impact for your customers or your business, you can't train them, right? You can train a bot quickly, but you can't train the customer behavior quickly. So if you introduce a new channel, let's say an email channel or a chatbot channel or even a live agent chat channel, that won't really reap rewards ASAP, right? So we wanted to still leverage the human behavior, let them still call in, but then let's take the bot takeover. Cardinal Health, we have an underlying philosophy of think big, start small, and scale fast. And we exactly did that in this case as well. We thought big. We started on a conversational AI, a conversational agent journey about a year and a half ago. As soon as we got this COVID-19 issue, we were able to quickly scale to help our organization as well as the agents who really needed their healthcare products quickly. And they were worried whether supply chain disruption would cause any impediments in their delivery and in turn their commitments to their customers.
Jasmeet, I love that philosophy and mantra of thinking big, starting small, scaling fast. Can you tell me a little bit about how you worked with the IBM team to be able to get started on these goals?
Absolutely. And I want to say and give kudos to the IBM team for being such a strong partners. Your team, Ritika, has been with us right from the beginning of our journey, all the way, at the moment this pandemic hit, right? I was getting constant calls. Hey, can we help? Is there anything you need? Being in healthcare industry, your team essentially looked at the value that Cardinal Health provides, and they were constantly asking, like, "All right, just meet, are you guys working on something that we can help and assist?" And the moment I told them about the problem that I'm trying to solve and my thought process on how I want to solve this problem, they were very quick to engage and help us out. We have a complex kind of setup as well, right? So we use IBM Watson for speech to text, text to speech. We use the IBM audio and audio gateway servers. And those servers are sitting on a Google Cloud platform, and we leverage Genesis as our telephony system that also sits on Google Cloud platform. So think about SaaS services going out to IBM Watson, coming back into the IBM Watson voice gateway servers, and then interacting with the Genesis telephony system. So architecting all of that, right? We had some ideas, and IBM team really jumped in and helped us validate our ideas. They helped us do proof of concepts. How can we quickly integrate these three very different technologies sitting on very different platforms? How can all of that come together? And they actually helped us validate all the architectural insights and diagrams, and said, yeah, you know what, this is how you actually set up a conversational agent in an enterprise setting, in a large Fortune 15 setting. I think that was a big catalyst that your team helped with, Ritika.
That's very insightful. Were there, as you embarked on the journey, were there any issues in trusting the technology or how the integration would work? What concerns did you have at the beginning of the journey?
Yeah, no, we had the concerns. Our primary concerns were around how the integration would work. Um, we, as I mentioned, we did started with an IT help desk conversational agent. So we were able to leverage some of that earlier on. But the moment we got into it and we started delivering the conversational agent for the pandemic, we saw that training and understanding of how different customers, and that to geographically dispersed customers, right, how they interact and how they talk to a conversational agent, that became more of a challenge versus the technology skill set as well. So let me explain that real quick here. So when we started on the IT conversational agent, our audience was our employees, and it had one skill, right? And that skill was reset my password. Now there's only so many ways you can say that, right? And there are only so many keywords that are out there. But the moment you open up a conversational agent to outside customers and you want to help them in a higher levels of anxiety, I would say, right? With COVID, like we all were anxious, especially in the early on days, including me, right? I wanted to know when am I gonna get my groceries, and people wanted to know whether there is enough toilet paper out there or not, right? So we, being in healthcare, we had a huge responsibility to make sure that the medical product supply goes ahead without fail. And we owed it to our customers to let them know what is the actual status of where are those products, when are they gonna get those. So dealing with that and training the dialogues around that was the most complicated in my mind for this use case. However, I do want to call out, right? We launched it in 5 days. The week after that, we were able to get 30% success rate, or 30% fully automated resolution. By week 3, we were at 80% fully automated end-to-end conversational agent was handling those conversations. And right now, I believe we are running strong at about 85% or so mark.
Those are some outstanding results, and I think what you've gone through really show the type of ROI and what you did, not only in the first 3 weeks, but even where you are now with that 5 days of investment that you had up front to do the right kind of training. I understand the trepidation, and we see this quite often with clients when you're taking a solution, an assistant that's built for internal employees, and then you're starting to unleash that on your clients, and the types of questions you get are quite different. So it's quite common that we see that, and especially in the times of COVID, there is that anxiety. And I think the experiences that you've had, Jasmeet, are the experiences that we're seeing with many clients, which is that assistant ends up becoming foundational to be able to answer those questions that are happening, especially in these uncertain times, to be able to have certainty in the type of results that you're getting and the type of answers that you're giving your customers or your employees or anyone else. So we see that quite often. I think your feedback and your story about the type of results you're seeing and how quickly you were seeing them, even as you were a little bit anxious about moving from employees to customers, is some great insights. So what's next for you beyond what you've done with Watson Assistant? So what do you see as the next chapter in expanding the use of AI in Cardinal Health?
We are looking at Cloud Pack for Data now. This is the latest offering from IBM, and we installed that. We are working on looking at various different use cases, both on the customer side of things as well as on the supply chain side of things, and see, right, how can we optimize, how can we leverage AI and power of AI to optimize some of our operations, including, right, how we interact with our customers. So those are really on top of my mind right now.
That's great, Jasmeet. What I wanted to maybe go into a little bit on the architecture. So if we could, I think you talked about having the systems that you have integrating with 3 different back-end kind of systems that are all disparate. When you look at that architecture, what was the secret to being able to take a complex architecture and to be able to do that within a short amount of time, as you demonstrated by putting the solution up in 5 days?
I would say there are 2 secrets. The number one is people and the willingness of people to come together. We had all the internal Cardinal Health IT teams, they came together. They wanted to make this work. At the same time, having a solid partner in IBM, I would say that was a dream team that worked on, during those 5 days of intense development. And I think that would be like the primary secret. The second, I think, is more like a secret ingredient. And for the ingredient, I definitely give credit to the IBM Watson and Voice Gateway servers. I think at an enterprise level, that was the right choice. I'm happy that the choice we made and how quickly it was able to interact with different technologies that were sitting on different platforms.
Well, Jasmeet, I want to thank you for your time. I think your story of Chia at Cardinal Health has been extremely insightful. I hope the audience that's watching this can take a few of the learnings and insights that you've had and apply them in their organizations as well. Again, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you, Ritika.
All right, I hope everyone found that interesting. It's such an awesome use case, so I'm glad that we're able to share it. Next, we'll be watching an interview with Mueller's head of analytics about how they've been able to leverage the AI features in Cognos. And again, it's really cool what they've been able to do, and hope it gives everyone some inspiration. As a reminder, we're also doing a Q&A session at the end of this, so feel free to enter questions in the question box, and we'll do our best to answer those at the end. So enjoy the next video.
Thank you for joining us today. My name is Nick Plowden. I'm the Product and Community Marketing Manager for IBM Cognos Analytics. So today I'm really excited to be joined by Mueller Inc.'s Mark Lack, and he is the Manager of Strategy Analytics and Business Intelligence. So Mark, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So I also understand you're a professor of analytics at Angelo State University. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Did I show you my mug my kids got me? It says Yoda Best Professor. That whole Baby Yoda thing they got.
Excellent. Well, you know, that has to be one of the reasons why you were awarded the IBM Lifetime Champion Award. So congratulations on winning that award.
Thank you. I'm very honored to have it.
So, you know, maybe we could kick things off by giving us an overview of what Mueller is and what they do.
Mueller Inc., we're a nearly 100-year-old company located in Ballinger, Texas, which is the far west Texas. We manufacture and retail steel building products across the southwestern parts of the United States. Our headquarters, like I said, are here in Ballinger, but we're spread out from Arizona all the way west to as east as Tennessee. And we primarily sell to end users of metal building products and also the construction professional. That's what Mueller does.
Oh, excellent. And, you know, one of the key things is that Mueller has been a client of ours for over a decade. So first of all, thank you for that. And I know that you use Cognos for a number of different analytics and reporting applications. So in the interest of time, could you give us some examples?
You know, one of the things that we get from our multitude of data sources is lots and lots of data. And so understanding how we can bring data together to help make better and informed decisions is really one of the tenets of my job and my department here at Mueller. We've been able to take analytics and the data that we have across the enterprise and consolidate it in ways that to us are novel and unique, but that can also help the strategic imperatives of the company.
We've had a new release of Cognos, release 11.1.7 that came out recently. And I know you've had a chance to play with it, and there's some things that you're really excited about. So maybe you could just take us through some of the things that you find most exciting about it.
So we've been using these analytics systems for a long time. Now, what you have to understand is, you know, when you have something for such a long time, it becomes your workflow, part of what you do and part of the tools that you use. Rarely is there a time when things become new or exciting. I could say that maybe for earlier releases, but at this point, it was when I found 11.1.7 where the opportunities that we found that we could leverage many, many historical assets in a way that we could turn around and give information displays and understanding of information in unique and new ways to help get a better understanding for the company. So when I opened up 11.1.7, the first thing I tested was the data set from report query. As a user of Cognos for many, many years, we have legacy products or legacy assets such as queries from Query Studio, query from Report Studio that until now we have not been able to take advantage of within the data set and then the dashboard capabilities without making some significant investments on our side to maybe transform the data into a different format. So one example, once I started using 11.1.7 was I had an executive come to me with a report that has been running for over a decade, and it has to do with the number of hours that we work as a company in overtime during the week. And so let me show you a version of the report so you can see what this particular manager is getting. And so in here, what we see is this is a report with branch location, cost center type, and then the number of hours. Red meaning that they're working outside a normal hour schedule. So, and this could happen for multiple reasons, but this is a report that has been going out for well over 10 years. So the question to me is, can I just get the exceptions for my cost center and cost area? And so as I started to think about that, as a good analyst, obviously the answer is yes. But I always like to use a process of thinking of, I can answer that question, but what additional value could I give them insight from the data for? So what I did is I came over to that report, and in 11.1.7, I thought, let me test the new data set capabilities. So what we can do in 11.1.7 is we can go to the report, copy the report to a clipboard, and then go into a data set, and Bob's your uncle, open the report from the clipboard. So what I have now are all of my queries from that report that I can now here include in my data set. Interesting. Okay, so I take the employee hours and go to my main page. I go to the employee hours and I drop in those items. So now I have my query items from my report into a data set. So I can save this now. I'm going to save and load my data. So I'm going to call this hours data, and I'm going to save it. So I can take the query from my report, my decade-old report, and pull it here into my data set. So now that I've saved it and loaded it, I can now go back to the welcome screen, find that data set, and create a dashboard. So I haven't spent a whole lot of time on this yet, right? Because the question was, can you edit this report? But I've taken, what, 5 minutes at the most to throw this into a dashboard to maybe see if there's something more of value that I could do. So as I go to create dashboard, it comes up and I'm going to select this option, and it's going to pull up my dashboard from the data set. So an exploration that I think I'll try is a scatter plot. So I'm going to drag this into here, move it into the drop zone. So I'm going to take my week total as my x-axis. I'm going to take my count full name as my y-axis, and then company name as my color. So very quickly, as this is being built, okay, I can see all of my outliers are now outside of the line. And wow, now I've got my company name color-coded along the outliers. So what I'm able to do now with the dashboard, so here I've taken a 10-year-old data asset and breathed new life into it by the way that I'm able to display this information in ways that the old static report didn't. And so as a manager now, not just the executive that asked for it, but how about all managers may like to see it in this format? So that makes me then think about, okay, well, what other value could I bring to this report? Excuse me. So I can go back to my data set, actually not the data set, let me go back home. And in the data set, I can then go back and go and use the AI capabilities for exploration. So as I come into here, I'm taking, once again, this 10-year-old data asset that we've been using to report a specific piece of information for a very long time that most of the company management gets, and now we're able to do new things to it that we've never done before. So I asked it to explore the relationships of the week total, which is the measure that we've been looking at. This doesn't really tell me much. 316, I don't know, I guess that's the total. This one I can't tell, but oh, this one actually looks kind of interesting. Maybe it's promising. So I open it up, and personnel number and week total by cost center. This is an interesting graph. So I can see my cost centers down here, the count of personnels that are outside of the norm, and then here it tells me some additional value here. I think this is going to be interesting. So I'll take a pin and go ahead and pin it. So now I've taken that pin, right? I've created it. Now let me go back to my dashboard. And let me add this piece of information onto my dashboard. So let me minimize this. I'll put this in edit mode. Scroll up, and in edit, I'll add another tab. And then let me open up my pin, and there it is. So what I find most interesting and intriguing about this 11.1.7, and I'm coming from 11.1.6, is the opportunity to leverage these decades-old data assets and really breathe new life into them and find more data or more information and ways of displaying information than we were able to with the previous releases. So I'm very, very excited about the opportunity. So now my step here would be, of course, I'd come in, start putting a couple of names in, call this a scatter plot, and I may put some additional formatting around it, putting some titles, that sort of thing. Right. And by then, I'm ready to save this. And so I can just go and save it. And this is the part that I like the most. I'll call this CC dash. So I'm going to put that in team content under administrative. I'll save it. What I like the most about this is that now I can come into that dashboard that I just created. I can click on share, and then I can copy this link into an email, send it to the executive and say, hey, what do you think about this? And with a 2-sentence narrative, I can answer their question of, can I have an exception report, to here are your exceptions, but here's more intuition and narrative around your exceptions that may give you more insight into what the real situation is regarding this data. As an analyst, my job is to identify the question, make sure they get the answer, but then in addition, provide additional context and insight to the best of my ability within the time constraints that I have to return the information. Because if I can answer not just the question that they asked, but maybe 2 more questions, then I've provided a lot more value to my client as I do this. And so I see that as a significant value.
Wow, no, that's pretty exciting. I mean, very excited to see that you took a data set that you've been using for so many years. You brought it into Cognos, and you could see new things with it, with that scatter plot that you were showing. But what's more exciting, I think, is then that you took that, you brought it into the Explorer experience, and using the AI capabilities, you were able to kind of discover new insights that weren't there before, and then be able to easily share that. So that's very exciting. Really, thank you very much for sharing that with us.
What's most impressive is I did that in about 10 minutes, right? So I added a lot more value. It wasn't something that, okay, the construct of the data background takes quite a bit of time to make sure that you have your data structured and stated correct. For all of these assets that we've been using for a long time, and that this system that we have built in order to create, test, and validate data assets, to now be able to leverage those across our entire environment is now, I mean, now my mind is going off in about 100 different directions as to all of this data that I can now breathe new life into.
So you've demonstrated some of the capabilities that you could do with Cognos for existing applications. And I'm wondering, how do you see the value of R7 for new users that you're bringing into your organization, or new companies who haven't used Cognos before?
So, we've used Cognos for a long time. And so, we've gone up through the various versions and the tool sets that have been there. For us, for people using Cognos now, and for the things that I'm creating in Cognos, these are assets that people want to view. Hey, where's that dashboard? Has the dashboard been updated? Well, of course it's been updated. I really like this report. And they call it a report, but it's really a dashboard. Because what it does is it gives them visual overview to answer questions that A, they need answered, but then B, they may not have thought of. So it gets back to, am I answering your need, giving you your data need, but then providing additional value to help answer additional questions. That saves everybody time, but it also provides value to the organization. I see going forward, dashboarding becoming 90% of what I create using existing data sets. And so is that an advance? Where the advance is, we're using data sets that people are already getting, so they're not getting something new, but what they're getting is additional insight. So I think there's a higher level of engagement with these types of tools. There's a higher level of understanding of the data. Oftentimes reports get created because there's some piece of information that a bunch of people need. So now we're able to curate that data and information in a graphical format that makes sense to everybody on that report, but it can meet the person where they need it to be. They can drill through for more detail. They can look at just their location. It adds so much more value to the data insight process that I'm excited again using tools that I've been using for 20 years.
That's excellent. Well, thank you very much, Mark, for sharing your insights and your expertise in how you've used Cognos. I think it's very helpful to existing customers and, as you said, for new. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate being invited.
All right, great. So for the next 15 minutes, we're going to be doing a Q&A. We've had a few questions come in, so we'll start by answering those. And feel free to keep submitting questions. And yeah, we'll go till about 2 o'clock. So the first question that we had was, how do you choose a first project for a Watson assistant? So I don't know, Mike or Philip, if one of you has a good answer for that.
Sure, Quentin, that's a good question. So
I think when you look at Watson Assistant, I mean, you see that you really have a great conversational AI solution there. And I think one of the areas that really lends itself to is customer service. And if you look at the kinds of questions, the customer service is answering, a lot of times they're sort of fast, straightforward answers, basically guiding people to particular information. So I think that anytime you've got that type of application available to you, or that business situation, customer service, repetitively providing fast, straightforward answers, it's a great opportunity to use something like Watson Assistant to streamline that. Watson Assistant's got really great facilities to connect customers to the right information. And then additionally, it has really great digital integration points to things like Salesforce or Zendesk or other systems and voice integrations. So I think customer service is a sort of a natural place to start. So guiding people to information, to products or services, whether it's created as part of the dialog flow or conceivably something that is searched through things like Watson Discovery.
Great. The next question we had was, is there going to be more merging of Watson services and Cognos Analytics?
Hi, it's Philip. Sure, I can take that one on. A great question. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. You can kind of see it from even the first video on today's webinar that some of those features, and there was a word platform mentioned and Cloud Pak for Data. So this is kind of the place where all of those different services from IBM's data and AI portfolio become integrated out of the box. And so by just basically being on the platform, imagine picking from a catalog of different services, and all those services become integrated and kind of work together right out of the box. So not only the Watson services, but also the data governance features, Watson Knowledge Catalog, that allow users to basically shop for data and then find out more about the data and find out where the data came from for the reports and everything else. So definitely for pure Cognos user, you've seen some of those advances already, hopefully by seeing the latest and the greatest demo of 11.1.7 release. And definitely that is kind of the groundwork has been done, and slowly with every release you will see more and more of that integration coming to light. So kind of look forward to the future releases remaining for this year and early into next year for sure.
Great. And Philip, I saw you answered this one privately as well, but someone was just asking in the Cardinal Health example, they were asking about how Watson was set up with Genesis for the chat function. So yep. Are you able to give a little more info about how they did that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that's done is that you throughout all the applications, there is a little bit of integration work that has to be done. So for example, the business users can actually build the chatbot because they're the ones who are building the flow and the logic of the answers, and even filling out the answers by hand, like to actually answer or give links to different documents and knowledge base and everything else. But when it comes down to integrating with other systems, whether those systems are existing chatbots that you need to make smarter, or they're actually phone systems where you actually want to be able to use the exact same AI library that you have, that Watson gave you for all the answers, all that knowledge base. If you wanted to tap into that, basically through the APIs that come with both the phone systems and out of the Watson AI, they're open APIs that basically allow you to kind of build that bridge, right? So what that means is that the exact same application you're using for Watson Assistant, and it's used on your chatbot on your website, the exact same application basically would tap in so that if and integrates through the voice gateways with any of the phone systems you have. So basically that means that you can now have a customer dialing in and press 1, press 2, and then speaking the way they would chat, and the Watson solution will actually recognize through speech to text recognition, recognize what the question is about, tap into the Watson Assistant behind the scenes, and then the answer will be basically spoken back through now text to speech kind of reverse automation to basically give the answer to the caller, right? So all of that is working out of the box with a number of industry, well-known industry kind of phone systems that it's kind of out of the box integration, and that's how it's done. So it's a little bit of integration work, and usually pair up a data engineer and a programmer with a team of business users to do any of that additional, more advanced integration with the existing systems you have in-house, and it's very straightforward to kind of implement that integration.
Great, and I think that your answer there kind of blends in nicely to the next question, and I'm sure Mike or Phil, you could both talk to this, but they're wondering what type of skill sets do you need in-house to start building these Watson assistants and Watson applications?
Yeah, that's actually a good lead-in for sure. So to start building it, you need a business user. So if you know Excel and you have the domain knowledge, business as a business user, you can start building it. So that means you do not need any technical skill to start building the actual Watson assistant with the slew of templates available. You do not need a technical knowledge to start building it. Where do you need a little bit of a help from a friendly programmer or data engineer is when you want to start integrating that beyond the chatbot functionality, beyond that knowledge base that you built to kind of answer the flow of the questions that are coming in, right? So if you need to integrate with the phone system, we need to integrate with the actual knowledge base of articles that you want to pull the answers from, integrate with other Watson services. That's where you need a little bit of a technical skill. So usually I find that a team of data engineers, let's say data engineer, maybe data scientist, if you need to do some predictive stuff, and in several business users would be the team you want for this. And then borrow a friendly programmer if you get stuck with a technical kind of issue, right? So it's definitely not a full-time job to maintain afterwards, right? Because the business users can actually maintain that chatbot by adding additional questions or additional flows once everything's kind of been built, right? I don't know, Mike, if you have any other thoughts on that.
Yeah, Phil, those are good points. We like to start with a little bit of upfront education, I think, and people will quickly understand all the terms that are used to describe the inner workings of the chatbot and realize that it's really nothing frightening at all. And then, as you said, just their business knowledge about the types of questions people are asking, the information assets that you're guiding them to really guides their efforts from there. And there isn't a great deal of additional knowledge. They structure that and they figure out their dialog flow very quickly and what the entities and intents are and things like that. And then, as you said, the integration points are something that our development teams increasingly experience with and can help with. There's lots of built-in integration points, but as long as the systems have an API, we can usually read or write from them. But yeah, we found that just starting with a very friendly dialogue planner and some education is a great way to get started.
Awesome. Well, that is all the questions we have right now. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to send them over after. You'll have my contact information. I'll be sending out the recording so you can watch it on demand, send it through to any of your team if they might be interested. And as always, if you even have any ideas of what you might be able to use some of these Watson services for, or take advantage of some of the new versions of Cognos, we're always happy to have those calls with you to figure out what might be possible and what the next steps would be. So don't hesitate to reach out at all. Thanks again, everyone, for making it to this webinar, and we hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you.